Killing of a Sacred Deer is a kind of black comedy, psychological horror thriller directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, the director of such films as Lobster. The film stars Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman and Barry Keoghan. Now going to this film, I didn't really know what to expect other than that I heard it was supposed to have been really mucked up and really weird and different. And coming out, yeah, it most certainly was. I expected it to be even more mucked up and even more just weird and insane. It actually wasn't as mucked up as I thought it was going to be, but it still was really weird and different. And I feel like if you're going to go and see this movie, you have to know going in that it is really weird and different. I mean, The Lobster was also weird and different, but this even more so. The Lobster had that funny kind of quirky concept about, you know, people being turned into animals and they don't get a date and all that kind of thing. This is not very kind of light-hearted or funny, although what I will say, and one of the things I like most about this film actually, which I forgot to mention when I talked about it in my vlog at the London Film Festival, is that it's very darkly comedic. I mean, very, very darkly comedic. You know, a lot of people might watch this film and not find it funny, but me personally, as someone who's a really big fan of black comedies, it was funny, and it got a few laughs from the audience throughout the film, and I love kind of films like that. The films that are kind of very dark and intense and weird and creepy and disturbing and unnerving, but at the same time it gets a lot of laughs from the audience. I just love black comedies. It's one of my favourite genres, and this is very blackly comedic. Like, it's, you know, it's not funny in the conventional sense at all, because like I said, it is very intense and it is very kind of disturbing and creepy and unnerving at parts, and it's really hard to talk about this film and actually describe it and say what it's actually about, because it is so weird and different. Basically, it's about this surgeon played by Colin Farrell, and he's got this really weird relationship with this young boy, Martin, played by Barry Keoghan, who, you know, it seems innocent at first, but then as the film progresses, it becomes more and more weird and dangerous and creepy. And what I like most about this film is that the performances were great, particularly Barry Keoghan, I think that's how you pronounce his name, from Dunkirk, and obviously he's this very innocent, sweet young lad in Dunkirk, but in this film he is so weird and scary and creepy and intense, and it just goes to show how great of an up-and-coming young actor he really is, because he is so drastically different in this from what he was in Dunkirk. And I liked him in Dunkirk, but in this he really stands out, and he gets a lot more to do, because he had essentially just a little bit part in Dunkirk really, but in this he has a much bigger role. It's still a supporting role really, but he gets a lot more to do as an actor, and he really stood out. You know, it was a real scene stealer, kind of very, very creepy, very kind of unnerving and scary and intense, and I think it was a really great performance there from him. But the cast all round, Colin Farrell, I love Colin Farrell, and he's really great in these kind of films. He was in Yorgos Lanthimos' previous film, The Lobster, and he was really great in that, and he's also terrific in this film as well. And what's so great about Colin Farrell in these movies is that if you know anything about the director and his previous films, particularly The Lobster and this, there's a lot of kind of deadpan, kind of straight-faced humour, and Colin Farrell is just so great at selling that. A lot of the laughs come from Colin Farrell, where he's delivering these just kind of absurd lines, but just in a very deadpan, serious, straight-faced way. It's just so intrinsically kind of funny and hilarious, because he's saying these kind of insane things, but in a very deadpan, serious, straight-faced way, and you just can't help but laugh. And yeah, I think that's one of the best things about this film, is that even though it was very serious and intense and scary and creepy and unnerving, it was also very funny as well, in a very kind of deadpan, blackly comedic way, and I really enjoyed it for that. It's one of these films that when it first came out I was like, what? It's like one of those films that just leaves you speechless and you don't really know what to think, but it's kind of grown on me over time. It's stuck with me, certain images and certain things that happen in this film, and I feel like it's one of those films that's going to continue to stick with me, and I'm just going to want to go back and rewatch. So even though initially when I first saw it, it didn't strike me as a film that I absolutely love and that I would want to watch over and over again, ever since I saw it, in the weeks since I saw the movie, it's just stuck with me, and I just can't stop thinking about it. I just want to go back and watch it again. And I think those are the best kind of films, the films where you don't really know initially what to think about them, but over time you just can't stop thinking about it. You just can't get it out of your head. You just can't resist the urge to just go back and rewatch it again. And go back into performances quickly. I touched on this in my vlog that I did at the festival, but Raffey Cassidy is also in this film. She's the young girl who was in kind of like Tomorrowland and Snow White and the Huntsman. I think she's a really great up-and-coming young actress, and I didn't actually recognise her at first because she's actually a whole lot older now, you know. But she did a really great job, and someone might watch this film and think, oh, she was acting bad, but no, it's just a lot of the performances in this movie, the actors are delivering these very kind of deadpan, really kind of awkward kind of performances, but it's like that's what the characters are meant to be like, and that's what the film is trying to convey, you know, where these characters are just really weird and awkward, you know, and delivering these lines in a very kind of deadpan way. And she sold it really well, and I think she's a really great up-and-coming young actress. Ever since I saw it in Snow White and Huntsman, and particularly Tomorrowland, I think she kind of stole that movie. I think she was really great in that, but in this as well, and I think she's really proving herself to be a really great up-and-coming young actress, and I can't wait to see what she does next, because this was a very different kind of film. But she really sold it, and she did just as good a job as kind of Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman, and also these other really great big heavy hitters. She did just as good a job as they did. And of course I can't do this review and not talk about the direction. This movie is very kind of bold and striking from a visual standpoint in a very different kind of way, and it very much reminded me of a Stanley Kubrick film. It was very Kubrickian in terms of how it was shot and how it looked. We had these wide shots and these long, slow, creepy kind of tracking shots going through corridors, following characters. And I guess you could call this film a horror movie. I didn't think of it as a horror film, but I guess you could call it that. But if you're going to say it's a horror movie, I feel like I have to say it's a very unconventional horror film. It's not a horror movie in the conventional sense at all. You know, it's not got like all jump scares and stuff. It's more of a kind of psychological thriller, I guess, kind of a horror movie. It's really hard to pinpoint any kind of genre on this because it is so weird and different, but I guess you could call it a horror movie. But what I liked about it from a horror movie standpoint is that it was kind of scary, but in a very kind of creepy, disturbing and unnerving way, and that really came across with how it was shot as well. We had these long, slow, unnerving tracking shots. Just those shots alone got you unnerved. All of Yorgos Lanthimos' films look, you know, striking from a visual standpoint, but particularly this movie, it did remind me of a Stanley Kubrick film. It was very Kubrickian, and I loved how it was shot, how it looked from a visual standpoint. So yeah, I think it was really striking, and it really helped kind of pull you into the world of the film, make you feel like you're a part of it. It was very immersive. I mean, some people might be put off because it is so creepy and weird and unnerving and disturbing, but I loved it. and I loved how it looked from a visual standpoint, and how that helps suck you into the world of the film and really immerse you and unnerve you and creep you out, but make you feel like you were a part of it at the same time, and it really kind of drew you in. So I loved it because of that. And one last thing I have to talk about is the score. I loved this film from a musical standpoint as well. The score was really great. It was kind of operatic and majestic at certain points, in a very kind of, you know, choir-like, you know, biblical orchestral way. And then it was also kind of very kind of creepy and unnerving and quieter as well at certain points. And I love that mix, and it really helped get those kind of, you know, feelings from you. And it really helped kind of convey the atmosphere of a very kind of intense, creepy, unnerving, disturbing kind of movie. The music really helped and really added a lot. And this is one of those best examples of a score that really adds to a film, really kind of intensifies kind of what you're seeing on screen, and really kind of, you know, adds a whole lot to the images you're seeing. You know, the music was really great. I love the score. Of all the films I saw at the festival, this was probably one of my favourite scores. So wrapping this up now, this was a very different kind of film. I can't say it's for everyone. There's some kind of imagery in this film that is quite disturbing and might be a bit too much for some viewers. I didn't have a problem with it, but, you know, it might be a bit too much and a bit too intense and a bit too creepy and weird for some people. But if you love films like that, and if you love very kind of darkly comedic films, if you've seen The Lobster, I think you will really like this movie. I definitely recommend going out and seeing it. And it's also just come out in the UK. It's playing in cinemas right now, maybe in a limited run, but I think it has actually opened nationwide in cinemas, at least here in the UK anyway. So I definitely recommend going out and seeing it if it sounds like a film that you want to see, and it sounds like a film that you think you would like. Very creepy and unnerving and disturbing, but also very darkly comedic at the same time, with some really great standout performances, and it also looks very bold and striking as well. Really well directed, fantastic score as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed Killing of a Sacred Deer. Probably the only thing I could say as far as criticism is concerned is the fact that I felt maybe it dragged a little in the second act, and although it won me over by the third act, I felt like there was a portion in the middle of the film there where it started to maybe get a little repetitive. But then just as I thought it was going to lose me, it really got me back into it again with the third act. And when it gets into that third act, it gets very intense, and it ends on a very kind of powerful note. So even though I felt like it maybe dragged a little and got a little repetitive in the second act, as soon as we got into the third act, it really got me back into it, and, you know, it really ended on a very kind of intense and powerful note. So overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really great, and I'm going to give The Killing of a Sacred Deer 4 stars. And there we have it, that wraps up my review of The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Have you seen the film yet? And if so, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this and you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to see more. And if you missed my last review, be sure to go ahead and click over here to catch up on my last review, or perhaps down here to catch up on another one of my recent videos. But with that said, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.